Hi, I'm Dr. Bill Wyeth. I'm a general dentist, but I've done nothing but orthodontics since 1970. I'm a board certified member of the American Orthodontic Society. I'm going to try to do a little video here on surgical orthodontics, and I'm going to try to get it going here. This is a young man that I knew the family and have known these people for years, and I still know them. And he was a class 3 surgical case that we did, and I'm going to try to go through this pretty quick. People apparently don't care all that much about doing or listening to these videos, but he's got a nice, friendly smile, good face, but he had a class 3 malocculsion, and you can see this is showing the left side of his mouth and the overjet. You see how this sticks out here in front. This is just really a bad class 3, but a real nice guy. And when you look at him straight on, he's got a pretty big overjet here, and his upper teeth just fit inside the lower teeth down here, and goes in a crossbite over here, and some teeth crossbite over on the other side. It's a real legitimate surgical case. Now, I worked with a Dr. Bill Bell in Parkland Hospital over in Dallas doing the case, and he's a real good surgeon, and he did a lot of cases for me. Well, not a lot, but I did, quite a few cases. Now, this is definitely a class 3. That 6-year molar's completely out front here, and the two bias and the cuspid. I mean, this cuspid ought to be back in here. So it's a real Jim Dandy class 3. And Dr. Bell worked it up and showed it in a surgical orthodontic meeting, I think in New Orleans, and one in Dallas also. I was privileged to go watch one of them. This is the models. He meets the same way pretty much that we showed. However, he bit a little different on the model over here than he did in his mouth, so it's a little different, but it's a real class 3 though. So both lower molars are sticking out in front, and I'm going to run through this pretty quick. People don't like to listen to these things very much. So Dr. Bell worked out I went over the case with him. If you're a general dentist, the surgeon, and you know how to do orthodontics, the surgeons don't care one bit. They just want to know somebody that can do the orthodontics for them. So anyway, I went over this with him, and he kind of took command, told me what he wanted to do, and I went through these things, and then he comes back and finishes the case, and then or does the surgical part, and after he's through, you do the finishing orthodontics. So you do orthodontics prior to it and then after the surgery. These are the things he had on his problem list, and this is another part of the problem list that he showed up. And this is the cephalometric tracing and things that he used in his lecture, where he showed it down in, I think, New Orleans and in Dallas once. And this treatment plan, what he's going to do in the treatment plan, and this is the other part of the treatment plan. Now, he goes in and does a set of models, and he will operate on these models and fix them like he wants to, and then when he goes into the surgery, they do the same thing. So he advanced the maxilla here and then brought the mandible back in this case, both upper and lower. And this case held up and was excellent. I watched him for 20 some odd years, and I don't know exactly where he is right now, but I'm sure his teeth are lined up good. This is the models after he kind of went over them. And this is the cephalometrics again. You can see how the teeth are out in front. And then he's going to design his surgery approach to the case. And you don't have to worry about the surgery. Doing surgery just makes orthodontics easier. If you can do good orthodontics, the surgeon doesn't care whether you're a general dentist. He just wants somebody can do the good orthodontics. So this is his cephalometric. So he brings this maxilla down and down grafts it in here. He whacks the jaw into here. This was back in 1980 something when he did this, and the surgery has changed some since then, but it's still pretty basically the same. This is where he's going to bring the jaw and what the facial structure is supposed to look like after he gets through. So here he is, cephalometrics before the orthodontics, you see. Now, so back then, they didn't have these little plates to screw them together, so they used wires. They brought this down and tied the mandible to it, and they would pull the jaws to and hold them for a long time, and that was bad for the joints up here. Now they screw these little plates in, and they can use their jaws, which was a big improvement. I'm not going to try to cover everything in here, but this is the facial structure, kind of the way he looked prior to the surgery. And this is cephalometrics after the surgery, how the face looked. And this is the appearance of the facial structure after surgery. I'm going to just flip back here real quick, and you can see what it looked like. He looked pretty mean in that picture. Maybe that was my photography. And he looks a lot more pleasant there. He's a lot more satisfied with it. This is a facial structure, and this is after the surgery. Quite a while they brought the maxilla down, gave him a little more facial height in there, and really made his face look real good. Now the thing he wanted me to do was to set all the teeth up and do just what he told me. In other words, I put hooks. Now they don't do these little brass hooks anymore. This was tedious orthodontics, putting these little brass hooks. But he showed this case before a whole auditorium of orthodontists and oral surgeons in Dallas and in New Orleans. And I was in the audience, and he told them who did it and everything, which was rather pleasing to me, that he would do that, me as a general dentist. And so this is what the orthodontics that he wanted. And so we did this. Here's that big wire hanging down, holding this maxilla up while it goes back together. You see the scar up there where it was. Now, I worked with Dr. Bell on a good many cases, and he let me come over and scrub in with him and he had a team of students, of dentists that were studying oral surgery, and I worked with that group on some cases. It was a tedious thing. We went in on one morning at 7 o'clock, and we worked on this person till 1 o'clock that day before we finished. And I remember Dr. Bell put the jaws together and asked me how that looked, and I turned to him and says, I could hardly recognize the lady. And I said, God, don't ask me how it looks. Because when the lady came back after a month or two, you could hardly recognize him. Now, I knew this guy. I'd known him a long time. I know his whole family and everything, and he's a real nice guy. And this is held up. This was 1982 when we finished him. Got the sign up here. And he had this perfect occlusion and everything just lined up beautifully well, and it stayed that way. I mean, the last I saw him kept up with this guy for at least 20 years till uh, 2000 something. In fact, I know his family, and I've inquired about him uh, just recently. So he's still going good, and his teeth are still lined up good. And a lot of surgical cases will relapse, but they move the maxilla back, but they also move the the mandible back a little, but they brought the maxilla forward, which gives more room for the tongue. Now that's the way he looked prior to the surgery, and there he is after the surgery. And that's quite an improvement. That's one of his pictures. He had his jaw back a little bit there, but there's the way his facial structure looked after the surgery. Here are his teeth in 1991. That's not quite 10 years after the surgery, but he looked that good 20 or 15 years later. But I kept up with him. I know the family real well. He's not brushing these good enough down here in the front. You can see got some plaque and stuff underneath there. But basically he took care of his teeth quite nice. That's 1991. And there's the upper arch, the lower arch, and that's just open his mouth and show it to us in 1991. And here the profile, he's gained a little weight, got a little stockier in 1991. A handsome young man, and the teeth worked out great. And it is marvelous that as a dentist you can come to the American Orthodontic Society and you can learn how to do orthodontics like this if that's what you're interested in. And so that's what we do. We have a wonderful organization, and we have wonderful courses with excellent teachers. And if you don't believe me, you just come and join us and join some of the courses. Now, that's the only case I'm going to show today. I just want a short video for you, but this video will be fairly short for a surgical case. And this is a surgical case that lasted, and I'm going to hush now, and we'll close this thing out. Thank you for listening to it. And I will come over here.